Wow, that over there is a very nice Ford. Have you seen it?
Of course. I have been looking at it since we got here. My worry is how people manage such vehicles and where they buy genuine parts from.
I'm sure there's nowhere else apart from Shuma Auto Parts. They are the only supplier of genuine Ford and Mazda parts, which comes straight from the manufacturer. They have everything in stock for both latest and ordinary Mazda and Ford. They also stock service parts such as diesel filters, air con filters, diesel pumps, steering pumps, turbochargers, engine overhaul gaskets, suspension parts, and body parts. If they don't have parts you're looking for, they can order within 5 to 10 working days. To top it up, Shuma Auto Parts also supply Maxxis tires and CST tires.
Really? But where are they found?
They are found on Chandram Sonda Road, Cruiser Auto Workshop in Lusaka. Call on 0979 192057 and 0960 747235. Email shumaautoparts@gmail.com. Shuma Auto Parts for all your genuine vehicle parts.
The Happy World of 5FM Radio, your adult contemporary radio station in Zambia, connecting you to the newsmakers and events that make news in the global village.
Good evening. This is a 5FM main news at 18:30 with Judith Mwape. The headlines. Emmanuel Mwamba nabbed for seditious practices. Government denies firing Chief Registrar of Societies. Somalis going hungry after floods. And now the news in detail. Police have formally arrested and charged PF Publicity and Information Chairperson Emmanuel Mwamba for the offense of seditious practices contrary to the Penal Code Act, Chapter 87 of the laws of Zambia. Brief facts of the matter are that Mr. Mwamba, aged 52, is alleged to have on November 4th, 2023 at 0737 hours at a known place using a computer system, knowingly and without lawful excuse, did post or allow to be posted on a Facebook page under the name of Emmanuel Mwamba. Police spokesperson Reha Monga says Mr. Mwamba's post is likely to bring into hatred or contempt or to excite disaffection against the administration of justice in Zambia and to incite violence or any offense prejudicial to public order or in disturbance of the public peace. He said the suspect has been detained at Emersdale Police Station in court soon.
The accused is alleged to have on the 4th of November 2023 around 0737 hours at a known place using a computer system, knowingly and without lawful excuse did post or allowed to be posted on a Facebook page under the name of Emmanuel Mwamba, a post which is likely to bring into hatred or contempt or to excite disaffection against the administration of justice in Zambia and to incite violence or any offense prejudicial to public order or in disturbance of the public peace. The suspect has been detained at Chilenge Police Station and will appear in court soon.
Meanwhile, police have recorded a warn and caution statement from PF Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda, aged 43, for the offense of seditious practices contrary to the laws of Zambia. Brief facts of the matter are that the accused, Mr. Raphael Nakachinda, with intent to raise discontent or disaffection among the people Zambia, did cause to be published seditious words in the News Diggers of October 27, 2023, on page 5. Mr. Hamonga said the utterances are alleged to have been made during a press briefing on 26 October 2023 in Lusaka district of the Republic of Zambia. He said the accused has been detained at Emersdale Police Station. And police have recorded a warn and caution statement from Given Lubinda of plot number 21841 Hillview Park, Lusaka, for the offences of failure or refusal to submit or surrender passport, diplomatic passport, or travel document contrary to the Passport Act number 28 of 2016. Mr. Lubinda has also been accused of holding more than one passport, diplomatic passport, or travel document contrary to the Passport Act number 28 of 2016. Mr. Hamonga said the accused has been detained in police custody at Westwood Police Station. The government has dismissed as false reports circulating on social media purporting that Chief Registrar of Societies Tandiwe Mende has been fired, and government says the purported list of opposition PF office bearers allegedly from the Registrar of Societies is flawed. Speaking during a media briefing this afternoon, Home Affairs and Internal Security Minister Jack Mwimbu clarified that Mrs. Mende has been redeployed and will be given other assignments through Cabinet Office. Mr. Mwimbu also stated that the purported list of PF office bearers shows former President Edgar Lungu having been registered as PF President in 2002, yet he was a member of the UPND at the time. Mr. Mwimbu said the late President Michael Sata was PF President as of 2002, contrary to the indications by the purported list making rounds on social media. He says the list is also purported to have been issued to PF lawyer Makebi Zulu by the Registrar of Societies on the premise of a court order, yet there is only a subpoena for presentation of the list in court. He says the Registrar of Societies is not in order to issue any list without consultation with the Attorney General, who is a lawyer for the government.
That document is now being peddled before it reaches court, purporting to show that it is being circulated arising from the court order. I've told you that there is no such court order. Doesn't exist. It's up to you, members of the press, members of the public, to analyze what is going on.
The Ministry of Health has observed with concern that diabetes is becoming a growing health problem, not only in Zambia, but also the African continent at large. Speaking this morning during the commemoration of World Diabetes Day, held under the theme, Know Your Risk, Know Your Response, Ministry Provincial Health Director for Lusaka Province, Simuliamana Chonga, says statistics shows that over 400 million people worldwide are living with diabetes, and by 2045, this number is expected to grow to about 600 million. Dr. Chonga notes that in Zambia, the prevalence of diabetes has been going up since 2009 from 3.2% to an estimated above 7% in 2021. Dr. Chonga says risk factors such as unhealthy diets, lack of physical exercise, alcohol consumption are among other things driving the prevalence in the country.
In 2021, the estimates are that the prevalence of diabetes has gone up to over 7%. As you might be aware, diabetes has risk factors. And one of the risk factors is, for example, unhealthy diets. And in fact, this is one of the most important risk factors. And these unhealthy means or constitute refined foods that are high in fat, high in sugar, and have less fiber.
Speaking at the same event, Diabetes Association of Zambia President Dr. Mbinga Mbinga expressed concern more than half of the population living with diabetes in Zambia are not aware that they are diabetic.
About half of the people, maybe even more than half of the people who have diabetes in our country do not know that they have diabetes. They may have the symptoms, they may have the complications, but they have no idea they've got diabetes. Okay, so that's the challenge. Because if you don't know that you've got diabetes, then you won't access care, diabetes patients. If you won't access care, what happens? You will go on to develop complications from diabetes. And these complications can be quite debilitating.
A researcher and consultant in climate-smart agriculture, Oliver Bulaya, says the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment requires more funding to meet its obligations on climate crisis. Dr. Bulaya says some districts have no forests reserve, which is a threat to the livelihoods of the people because for survival, human beings depend on the biodiversity due to unsustainable agriculture practices, industrialization, charcoal burning, and brick-making enterprises, among others. He notes that the ministry hosts very important units such as the meteorology, climate, and forestry. In some cases require adequate operational budgets, office space and equipment, adequate transport to carry out monitoring and sensitization meetings, and other obligations effectively in all districts of Zambia. Dr. Bulaya says the threat of climate change affects all the sectors of the world economies, and for such, more funding for more interventions and policy directions are needed to reverse this trend.
When you look at the rampant destruction of the ecosystem due to unsustainable agricultural practices, industrialization, charcoal burning, and brick-making enterprises, some districts have completely no forest reserve. This is a threat to the livelihoods of the people themselves because for survival, human beings depend on the biodiversity. The Ministry of Green Economy hosts very important units such as the meteorology, climate, and forestry.
Government has disclosed that Zambia will now be added to the 16 countries in Africa who have national adaptation plans as a commitment to addressing climate change under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Speaking during the launch of the National Adaptation Plan today, Green Economy and Environment Minister Collins Nzovu says the NAP identifies priority adaptation actions in the medium and long term as a response to reducing the impacts of climate change in various sectors, which includes agriculture, forestry, energy, water, infrastructure, tourism, wildlife, mining, and health sectors. Mr. Nzovu says the NAP also identifies priority adaptation actions in the medium to long term for the 10 provinces of Zambia and the 3 agroecological regions. He says these adaptation actions that were arrived at through rigorous analysis and stakeholder consultations will enhance the country's resilience to the impacts of climate change. Mr. Nzovu says the NAP also identifies opportunities for integrating the prioritized adaptation actions into national, sectorial, and sub-national planning and budgeting processes. Sekumba has welcomed an initiative by Immersive International and Augusta Productions to develop a concept for a climate-focused charity concert at the Mosotunya Victoria Falls Heritage Site in May 2024. Reacting to the presentation made by the filmmakers at Kwacha House this morning, the minister said the idea has come at the right time when the Zambia is making some noise on the international tourism market and hence the need to continue with the buzz. He help get the much-needed 1 million visitors to the falls and make Zambia more visible to the international tourism. Mr. Sekumba urged the organizers to focus on the value of the event away from the costs for the benefit of marketing.
To just gladly welcome this particular initiative. I'm happy that the team has already saw it, they've seen it before. And in my sales days, I don't talk costs. I always look at value first. What are you paying for? I talk costs. I negotiate much later. Interesting that we're going to have a global reach. We've been struggling for a very long time. One of the key initiatives they signed up in the UK just last week to see how best we could get in global reach.
And Immersive International Managing Director and Executive Creative Director Tony Luxon said against the stunning backdrop of Victoria Falls, the team will create the world's biggest visual show spanning a natural canvas of 1.7 kilometer wide and 150 meters high, featuring unique performances from some of the best artists of all time and powered by the waterfall itself.
Part of that is, of course, finding the funding, and where the funding comes from is a secondary measure, right? We just need to know, we need to get a team up and running in January in order to make it happen. That's our focus now in terms of making it work. So we're happy to work with you to find if that's philanthropists, if that is sponsors, if that's things.
Meanwhile, Lawrence Thompson, who is local organizer of the event, says the show has potential to create employment opportunities for young people in the country. He said it will help in improving talent for the youths who have interest in film productions. Another story trending this evening. The Zambian Civil Liberties Union says the recent release of an official list of office bearers by the Registry of Societies has raised serious concerns about potential constitutional breaches within the National Assembly of Zambia, specifically related to changes made in the leadership of the opposition by Speaker Nelly Muti. Former High Commissioner to Australia Frank Walia has noted that some stakeholders in the country's political landscape are dismissing the recent Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops pastoral letter, which suggested that the democratic space is shrinking without addressing the substantive issues raised by the bishops. Up next, the business news.
5FM Radio Business News. We mean business. Keep you current in commerce, trade, and industry, local and global. It's our business to keep you informed about business.
Zambia is elated to be participating at the third Intra-Africa Trade Fair taking place in Cairo, Egypt, the inaugural place of IATF in 2018. Zambia Development Agency Director General Albert Halwamba says at the first IATF in 2018, Zambia participated with only 5 companies, but is happy to lead 23 Zambian companies from across sectors in 2023. Mr. Halwamba says under the auspices of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the participating companies have the opportunity to network, identify business leads, clinch deals, structure transactions, and increase exports and investments with other companies from 55 participating African countries. He has urged the team of companies participating at the IATF to maximize the opportunities presented to them and get the maximum benefit.
5FM Radio Business News. We mean business. Keep you current in commerce, trade, and industry, local and global. It's our business to keep you informed about business.
And now in foreign news, flooding in Somalia has left residents without homes and food shortages. Around 1.6 million people in Somalia are thought to be affected by the heavy seasonal downpours. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the flooding has been worsened by the El Nino effect, which is causing changes in weather patterns around the world. Here's a rundown from the BBC.
The United Nations has issued a new warning that countries around the world are making only minor progress in tackling climate change when dramatic action is needed. A new report says greenhouse gas emissions will fall about 2% compared to levels 4 years ago. In a video posted on social media, the UN climate change chief Simon Steele said this was not enough. An international rights group is calling for a war crimes investigation into an Israeli strike in Lebanon that killed 3 children and their grandmother. The family were traveling near the border with Israel jail just over a week ago when their car was hit. Human Rights Watch says the strike was unlawful. In other news, Sri Lanka's Supreme Court has ruled that the former president Gotabaya Rajapaksa and his brother Mahinda, a former prime minister, were partially responsible for the country's worst economic crisis in decades.
And finally, in sports news, Jude Bellingham and Levi Colwill have withdrawn from the England squad against Malta and North Macedonia. Both Real Madrid defender Bellingham and Chelsea defender Colwill will have shoulder injuries. 5 players have now pulled out of Gareth Southgate's initial squad for the games on 17th and 20th November. On Monday, Cole Palmer, Ezri Konsa, and Rico Lewis replaced the injured James Maddison, Colin Wilson, and Lewis Dunk. And that sporting item brings us to the end of the news this evening. But before we go, a recap of the top stories. Emmanuel Mwamba nabbed for seditious practices. Government denies firing Chief Registrar of Societies. Somalis going hungry after floods. For more news, follow us on Facebook, 5FM Radio Zambia. On behalf of the entire news crew and the technical department, thank you for listening to the Happy World of 5FM. Stay safe and stay tuned to 5FM Radio. I'm Judith Marbe. Good evening.